ask for that.
Yeah, if you want to get on the private side, do that kind of, it's called backroom banking. You have to go to probably the corporate office and ask to speak to a private banker. And they could, in fact, set up a repository for you. Some of the banks offer bullion accounts. Some of you guys are carrying around tons and tons of gold and silver and all that kind of junk.
I'm just curious about a little transaction that happened a few years ago. A buddy of mine wrote me a closed check for $200,000. I took it to the bank, put it in the night deposit box. Okay, well, the bank phoned me the next day and they said, we're calling the check. And I said, well, why not? And she says, well, if there's no money, it's a closed account. And I said, well, I took out Black's Law Dictionary. I said, well, a closed account, still remains open on both sides for offset. And she says, she just went quiet, and then I repeated it again. And she said, well, sir, all I'm trying to do, I said, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to obstruct me as my fiduciary. And then I hung up. So then I wrote her and I told her I can only conclude by the phone call that you're obstructing as the fiduciary. So then I checked my bank account, and of course there wasn't any money in it still. So I phoned my corporate lawyer cousin in Vancouver and phoned him up and I said, yeah, a buddy of mine wrote me a check for $200,000 and they're saying that the account's closed. And he says, well, Dave, that's a lot of money. If I were you, I'd get in your car right down and get down to his bank and ask them to certify it for you. When they don't, that's proof, right? I went, okay, thanks. And I said, but Black's Law Dictionary says, oh, don't pay any attention to Black's Law Dictionary, he says to me. So off I go and I go do that. And I walked into the bank and I walked up to the teller and I said, can you please certify this check for me? And she goes, oh, sir, I can't do that. I said, why not? She goes, it's closed. I said, well, can you give me a letter saying that you're dishonoring my request here today to certify this check? And then she went and got a supervisor, and they told me to sit down. And they all started sweating in the back room. And I looked around the corner, and there was the bank manager and all of them huddling. And then next thing you know, I came out, and they came out with a thing, and they tried to give it to me and they put, we are youable to cash your check. They spelt it wrong, unable, and they screwed a bunch of stuff up on it. And anyway, they gave it to me. And when I took it, she was all of a sudden really relaxed. It was like total relief. And I thought, what just happened? So I started to walk out of the bank, and I said to myself, geez, this is kind of strange. I wonder what's going on. I said, I didn't get a witness, I thought to myself, so I'll go in and get a bank teller to stamp it. So I went running back in, and I went up to the teller to stamp it, and she looked at all the other tellers and stood back like this, and the manager comes out and told me to get out of the bank. And I said, well, okay, well, fine. He goes, I'm going to call the police. I said, I don't care, phone the police. I said, whatever. And I said to him, look, buddy, I'm just going to go get my own witness and come back here and do this all again. And he's just like, looks at me, and then I started to walk out the bank, and I hear this voice from behind me, sir, I'll witness that for you. And I go walking back in, and this guy goes, I'm James Hormuth, I'm a lawyer. And I went, okay, well, sign this then. So he went to do it, and he wrote a little thing up on the side, and then he didn't sign it, and he handed it back to me, and he tries to shake my hand. And I went, well, he didn't sign this. And of course, everyone's witness now that he's going to be my witness, so he had to sign it. And then finally I said, thanks. I went to walk away. He goes, I didn't get your name. And I went, my name is, David Anthony Robinson. I said, and he smiles, big smile comes on his head. I go, that's upper and lower case with full punctuation. And he ripped his hand away and he spun around like this with a teller. And I went right in his face and I said, did you get that? That's upper and lower case, full punctuation. And he goes, ah. And the bank manager's in his office doing the same thing. Ah. Yes, so I went out. I get a bank statement. A couple weeks later, it shows the $200,000 was in my account for 5 days. And then the Scotiabank took it, the second bank.
It was in this account.
Yeah.
It wasn't your account. They had which bank was it? Scotia?
Well,
They had the full use of that money.
Scotiabank, and I deposited it in the TD.
What they had to do is go to the TTL account to make it good. And they kept that money. They stole it from them. That's for a fact.
Yeah.
Did anybody know where this guy lives at? Would you please take him home? And when you laugh at him, you only encourage him. You know he's going to go out and do something tomorrow just as bad.